Hello friends, this is Clara, and I'm here to talk today about what I learned in lit class. I really like tag videos, but my favorite tag videos are the ones that are sort of tag-ish videos. Tags like Jen Campbell's Be a Good Human, or The Reading Outlaw's Best Loved Books, or Poptimist uploaded a video this week that was about his reading history and made it a tag-ish. So there's not a big list of questions you have to answer. You can talk about a class that you took, you can talk about a paper you wrote, or a reading list from a really excellent class. So at Houghton College, all of the senior English majors had to take the same class together, and there were only about 12 of us, I believe. So I had Dr. Stephen Woolsey for senior sem, and he led the class as an exploration of the quest, which I expected would mean like knights and armor and maybe some Tolkien and medieval poetry, and ended up being a bunch of contemporary novels and nearly no swords involved. It ended up being one of the highlights of my time in undergrad and a really beautiful time of community and conversation, and I really felt like I came into my own as a reader in that class. So I'm going to tell you about the list of books, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about how they fit together and the structure of the class and why it meant so much to me. We didn't read all of Emily Dickinson's poetry, but we read a lot of her later poems, and I remember being particularly struck about one about Jacob and the angel. So in the poem and in the Bible story, Jacob wrestles with the angel and is both blessed and like wounded within that struggle. We also read Orlando by Virginia Woolf. In Orlando, Woolf brings up all these questions of gender and identity, and because it's the same character existing sort of throughout history, but in like two different bodies, at least two different bodies. So it asks a lot of interesting questions, and they tied really nicely into some of the other books we read, such as The Power Book by Jeanette Winterson, which is a novel that I had never read anything like before. A lot of questions about digital relationships and what does a relationship mean if you can't see the other person, and like, is the person male or female? Does it matter? Does it matter who they are? Does it matter if you can't see them or can't experience them or can't touch them or any part of that? Like, there's also a bit of magical realism in there, which is kind of fabulous. Which brings us to Mariette in Ecstasy by Ron Hansen. This book has a bit of potential magical realism as well. It's the story of a young nun who goes to a convent. It seems like the perfect picture of devotion and religious fervor, but some of the other nuns aren't sure whether she's as holy as she seems like she is, and at one point in the novel, she like receives the stigmata and like has the wounds of Christ in her body. But is it real? Is she just hurting herself? Unclear. Which brings us to Godric by Frederick Buechner. This book is about a saint who doesn't want to be considered a saint. There is someone who is writing his sort of hagiography, sort of like fantastical biography, and he's still alive, and he's like, hey, I'm not actually a wonderful person. I am full of secrets and sin, and don't think of me like a holy person. We read a lot of other great books that semester, books that dealt with how where you are in the world matters and how the condition of that world matters. If we live in a terrible circumstance, those circumstances will affect our relationships and the way we carry on. This course, because all of this talking about travel and about religion and about relationships came at a really important time for me. I was about to graduate, I was feeling sort of lost in the world, and having these books articulate my faith as being part of who I was as a scholar and as a thinker. The friends I had in that class were also incredibly important to me, including some of my closest friends in the world. So those are my thoughts on this particular class. And if you ever want to read logically and like emotionally rich novels, those are a good list to start with. Great. I am tagging Katie from Books and Things. I'm particularly excited about hearing about your MFA in writing and what does that mean? What kind of classes did you take? I am tagging Colleen from Seeking the Spheres. I know you studied library science and were an English major for that. I'd love to hear about any of that. I am tagging Put a Finish on It and Pages, who I just like met this weekend on BookTube, but they seem great, so you're tagged as well. if you would like to. And you're tagged if you want to do it. So if you want to talk about any of this, I would love to hear about it. Thanks so much. Bye!